Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Monday, the 20th day of July. Here we go. On Tisha B'Av, we're not allowed to anoint ourselves for pleasure with any anointing type of thing. So you can't put on yourself for pleasure any oil, soap, alcohol, hair tonic, cream, ointments, and or perfumes. Those would all be considered pleasurable. If you're putting them on for pleasure reasons, then you're not allowed to do that on the day of Tisha B'Av. If it's for medicinal reasons, then it would be considered fine. It's only for anointing for pleasure that is considered prohibited on the day of Tisha B'Av. Now, deodorant is considered not for pleasure, but rather for removing bad odors, and you are allowed to remove a bad odor on the day of Tisha B'Av, so go ahead and use deodorant. Shoes, you're not allowed to wear shoes made of leather, you know that. But any shoes made of like cloth or wood or rubber or plastic are okay to wear, and therefore your things like clogs, most cheap sneakers, those kinds of things are going to be permissible on Tisha B'Av. Generally, when it's expensive, usually they're expensive because there's leather in them, so watch out. A very, very, very cheap pair of sneakers is probably going to be no leather in them, and if they start to cost some amount of money, it's probably because either you overpaid because there's a crazy brand name on it, or because there's leather in it, so watch out for that. If you're not sure, check with a rabbi. I know it's a little embarrassing, but you have to check because you're not allowed to wear any shoe with any leather in it on the day of Tisha B'Av. If it's part leather, it's usher. If it's plastic but it has even a leather covering over it or something like that, it's also not allowed. If you have to wear like regular shoes because, I don't know, you're stuck in a certain situation where you'd be embarrassed to wear Tisha B'Av shoes, then the halacha to that said, and you see, nowadays, I'm hesitating here because nowadays you can always get shoes that look respectable even without leather in them. But if you were to be in a situation where you couldn't get a shoe that looked respectable, and you had to be at a respectable something with non-Jews, and you would be embarrassed by your Tisha B'Av shoes, then if you had to wear those leather shoes, the halacha actually says that you should put some sand inside of them to give you discomfort while wearing them. If you have an injury, and because of the injury you have to wear some kind of thing that has some kind of leather inside of it, speak to your rabbi in advance so he can give you some guidance on what to do with that. There are people who have these inserts in their shoes, orthotics, that have a leather covering on them. I got one. And personally, I can manage fine without it for the day of Tisha B'Av. It's not so medicinally necessary for me, and I go around without it. But if you have one that you have to wear, and it's going to hurt you if you don't wear it for a day, speak to your rabbi in advance so you can make a proper, full, educated decision. Thanks for logging on. Log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.